This next hour is going to be the Fort Bragg USA Hour. So, without further ado, I'll just go ahead and start the Avengers from over here. Yeah. Welcome to Fort Bragg USA, weekly component of KNYO. Oh, Scott's over here. Scott Peterson. All right. You want to do us that introduction there, Scott?
From Public Radio KNYO, deep in the heart of the Emerald Triangle, this is Fort Bragg, USA, the quiz show for Mendocino County nonprofits. I'm Scott Peterson, and here's your host at the KNYO Garage Studio in downtown Cleone, Mr. Joe Wagner.
It's really great to be here. All right, so what's on the topic tonight? What are we going to talk about, Scott? We don't have a phone-in guest. We're going to do this in-house this evening. And Scott's pointing because I'm not as prepared as I'm supposed to be. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Welcome to Fort Bragg, USA. This is the show where we bring you real people, real issues with nonprofits, especially people who are good to them. Like our guest, Who's our guest?
This is Babette, it's our brand new executive assistant.
Babette. All right. Now, as far as Babette, is Babette really an employee or just a vinyl blow-up doll? What is this?
No. Joe, remember the famous Supreme Court case called Citizens United?
A little. Help me out.
Well, remember that $10 you gave me last week?
Okay.
Well, that's what I did with it. I went out and hired Babette. She's corporate property now.
Did you clear this with Bob?
Oh, of course. I cleared it with the legal department. Everything's cool. This is Babette.
But can she type?
No, but I can.
Okay.
Babette gives dictation, and boy, can she give it.
Okay. This is kind of ridiculous, but you ran it by the legal department, right?
I sure did.
And what did they say?
They said that KNYO is an equal opportunity employer and that we can't discriminate because it's against the law.
Against vinyl sex toys.
Oh, against persons of vinyl with corporate personhood.
Okay. This reminds me of a Monty Python episode, actually. But, really?
They also said you shouldn't call her a sex toy.
And why is that?
Because it's sexist and discriminatory.
Okay. And what happens if I do?
Then Babette can sue us for workplace discrimination.
Even in a nonprofit?
Mm-hmm.
A sex toy?
No, Joe, a person of vinyl with corporate personhood.
Now you're talking like Mitt Romney. So Babette is a corporation. No, she's a people. She has legal
experience.
Okay. She certainly does. And what was her last position?
Fully inflated.
I got to keep up here. No, I mean, who did she actually work for?
A former justice.
Really? Okay, of the Supreme Court of the United States?
Recently deceased.
Antonin Scalia?
I found Babette at his estate sale.
For $10?
She was listed for $20, but I negotiated.
Okay, well, you're sly. Are you sure about the Scalia actual connection?
There might be some DNA left on it. We could have it tested.
No,
I could take a cheek swab.
Okay. Where would you actually send that to?
We could find someplace, I'm
sure. No, please. I mean, who is Babette actually speaking for this evening on the show?
Today, Babette is speaking for the president of KZYX.
You mean KZYX? KZYX?
KZYX through the president of their board of directors.
Okay, so you're speaking for the president of the board of directors, not the three bean salad eating broadcasters and stuff. Okay,
yes, sir.
And who is the president?
That's Meg Courtney.
Okay, this is did you tell Meg Courtney about Babette
being a person of vinyl?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because our legal team told me not to.
Okay. And why is that?
Because it's discriminatory.
Why couldn't Meg Courtney be here today?
I'm not sure. It might have been Babette's wardrobe.
You know, another factor, too, though, is in the last city council elections, the people that were really against the Main Street project and stuff, I sat in some of those meetings and very vocal group, and if she recognizes me as a broadcaster, that might have steered her away, too. But, you know, her wardrobe could use a little work.
Yeah, well, you know, the garters might be a little over the top, and the tassels, you know, could use a little work, too.
Maybe a new wig. Okay. Well, I guess we can get started. So, Babette, How do you know about KZYX?
She found it on the internet.
All I heard was squeaking.
Babette has a squeaking disability, so now you've hurt her feelings.
It's like squeak Tourette's. Okay. How do you actually know what she said?
We've become intimate.
Okay.
Now you've hurt her feelings again.
All right. I'm sorry, Babette. Do you accept my apology?
That means she does.
You know, if she was deflated, she wouldn't talk so much. No, I'm kidding.
No,
Okay.
You know, we don't want to go to that legal department thing again.
Okay. What happens if she didn't accept the apology? Would she sue us?
I wouldn't push it. She's got a lawyer named Robert Shapiro.
The guy who freed O.J. Simpson?
So don't mess with her.
Okay, so is KZYX a nonprofit endorsed by the state of California? For what purpose?
To foster amateur sports competition?
Like for logging shows? At KZYX? Really? Okay, and?
Public safety.
And?
Community service.
And anything else?
Education.
And anything else after all that? So that means no. Did you speak with Meg Courtney about that? What did she say?
She accused you of doing what? Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe she was having a bad day. Did she deny that was KZYX's state-endorsed purpose?
How was Meg Courtney relating to you?
Oh, Babette, that is incredibly unfair. You just called Ms. Courtney a really bad name. How would you feel if that happened to you? Would you like it? Would it make you feel respected? Of course not. You know, there's a remarkable program on KZYX. It's called Politics, a Love Story, where people can share ideas without name-calling and ad hominem attacks. Can we do that here?
Okay, so you found some information about KZYX on the internet. Did you find this, like, on chat rooms? Where did you find it then?
At the Charitable Trust in the National Center for Charitable Statistics.
And where'd that come from?
KZYX.
Did you find anything unusual? And what was that?
She says 5 years worth of hidden tax returns.
Well, that's deep. Are the tax returns important to nonprofits like KZYX? And why is that?
They report the organization's purpose.
Okay, well, did the purpose on the hidden tax returns match the purpose endorsed by the state? It didn't. Did the definition, or did the purpose on the hidden tax returns include amateur sports competition, or public safety, community service, education, logging shows, anything? Nothing. And none of those were on the hidden tax returns. Does KZYX keep meeting minutes? Have you read them? Do you see any discussion about that change? What about KZYX's purpose? Ever? Then what's discussed at those board meetings anyway?
Organizational meltdown.
Wow, I guess so. Anything else?
Coping with it.
Did you tell Mrs. Courtney about the hidden tax returns? Did she ever deny them being hidden? And you confronted her with that. How did she respond?
Man, I hope we got a buzzer on this or something, but Babette, you cannot be using that kind of language here. This is public radio. I don't care how you feel about Meg Courtney. You should never use that kind of language.
You're going to get us sued.
I understand, but this is public radio, so please don't do it again, okay?
Okay, Babette, did you see any reason for the hidden tax returns? And what was that?
Ooh, it was a loss that nearly wiped out KZYX.
Of how much?
She says it was $250,000.
When was that?
Started in 2008.
During the big recession? Do you know who actually hid those tax returns? And who was that?
She says it was John Coate.
Coate? And who's John Coate?
The station manager?
Okay. He's like the equivalent to our Bob, so why?
She says because he wanted to keep his job.
By lying? Okay, and who did Mr. Coat report to?
The KZYX board.
And who was the president then or there?
Meg Courtney.
Okay, all right. So here we go. Did you find any unusual expenses at KZYX? And in what amount?
Hold on a second. Babette's powdering her nose.
You're not drinking a bottle of Merlot with the city manager? I believe...
Babette. Okay, back to the question.
In what amount on the unusual expenses?
$30,000.
$30,000? Okay. Sounds like a typical pledge drive almost. For what? Legal expenses?
Legal expenses, yeah.
Did you find any legal complaints? No legal complaints. Did you happen to tell Miss Courtney about that? And what did she say?
She called you a what?
Wow. I'm really sorry. I hope we can make this up to you, but please tell me something. Is KZYX a nonprofit? Can you tell me how many nonprofits there are in the county, or in the country today? How many are there?
1.5 million and counting.
How many of them hide tax returns?
25.
25? That's it? And how many of those are in Mendocino County?
3.
How many of them have done that for 5 years running?
1.
And who's that?
KZYX.
Wow. Okay, and who's the runner-up?
The Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department out in New York State.
And what's happening there?
They're getting investigated by the feds for embezzlement.
Wow. And what's happening to their funding?
They're losing it.
Why?
For being stupid.
Okay, is there any difference between the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department and KZYX? And what's that?
Time.
So KZYX lost $250,000 and $30,000 in legal expenses for lawsuits that never even happened, according to KZYX, on tax returns that were hidden for 5 years. So, doesn't KZYX have a board of directors or somebody to hold them accountable? And did any of them ever bring this up? Who?
John Sakowitz.
Now, that's a familiar name in that KZYX circle. What was John Sakowitz's position at KZYX?
Treasurer.
So he was an officer? Were there any other officers there at the time? He's the only officer. Whatever became of that?
He was told to shut up about it.
Wow. Okay, by who?
Meg Courtney.
Was she an officer then? Where did you find out that John Sakowitz was the only officer at KZYX?
On the tax returns.
Okay, all right. Following paper again here. You mean the tax returns that were hidden for 5 years? KZYX has a news department, right? You know, I miss Annie Esposito.
I do too.
Wasn't this reported there? Okay, how long has Meg Courtney been with KZYX?
Since 2013.
And what about John Coate?
Started there in 2008.
And is he still there? What's he doing now?
He's giving lectures.
About what?
Coping with organizational meltdown.
Okay, well, I was thinking anybody from public radio is like giving lectures about straw bale house building or something. Seriously? What did he do before KZYX?
He developed video games.
Oh, really? About what?
About organizational meltdown.
All right, okay. What did Meg Courtney do before KZYX? Because she was on the city council, right?
Okay, we'll hold on just a second here. She's powdering her nose again. This is very stressful for Babette.
Yeah, how many terms? I mean, I know she was on city council because her and Heidi Kraut, their seats were gone when Mike Cimolino, otherwise known as Q, and Lindy Peters, longtime Fort Bragg broadcaster, took over those two chairs.
Right.
So how many terms was Meg Courtney in?
One.
And before that?
The Fort Bragg Planning Commission?
Oh, okay. And before that?
Nobody knows.
Does Meg Courtney have an online resume? What about a bio on the KZYX website? What does she do for a living?
She's an artist.
What medium?
All of them.
Cool. Has she won any awards for that? What about John Coate? Does he have an online resume? How many people has he worked with? Hundreds? Does he have a LinkedIn resume? How many people recommend him? 2? Out of hundreds of people he's worked with? Was he paid at KZYX? How much? $55,000 a year? To do what? To raise money. How much did he raise? Nothing. So, what did KZYX have before John Coate started there? So about $350,000. See, I'm starting to understand now. And now how much? $80,000. Okay. So John Coate actually lost money for KZYX. I mean, at a rate of $55,000 a year. Where did you find out about this? The KZYX tax returns? Who filed them? Are you telling me that John Coate filed them and then hid them for how long? 5 years running? While Meg Courtney was on the board. Did you tell her about this? How did she react? Okay, I see. She's pretty angry. And John Coate? Okay. Who was she angry at? He angry at? You? Why? Are you using bad names again? Did you accuse her of doing something wrong? What did you do? I see. You sent her the tax returns. Did you do anything else? Okay. You asked her for an explanation. Did she ever explain? Did she deny those tax returns? And she just got angry. Have you ever met Meg Courtney? What about John Coate? Where? You met him at the San Francisco Chronicle? When? Okay, it was in the late 90s. All right, what was he doing there? Giving seminars. On what? Right, on coping with organizational meltdown. And what were you doing there? Coping. And what was the organization doing? Ah, melting down, right. What was John Coate's position there? Right, fully inflated. Did you talk to other people at KZYX about this? Who?
Lorraine Dector is the general manager, isn't she?
Dector, that's the pronunciation?
Dector?
Okay, I wanted to clarify that. I thought we should have at some point. Glad you said it first. Was she angry with you? Did you speak with anybody else there?
Oh, that's Raoul Van Hall. He's a station manager, isn't he?
Now, that's a new name to me. How long has he been station manager? We don't know that, or... Okay, I'm not really sure. Was he angry with you? Did you give him the same information? And ask the same question? The same as Lorraine Dector? And nobody else got angry with you? Only Meg Courtney. Did she offer any explanation to you? None. Okay, did she put you in touch with John Coate? Did he offer any explanation to you? Is KZYX mentioned in his online resume? Huh, did he claim any accomplishments?
Hold on, you're saying that John Coate claims to have paid down most of KZYX's debts?
While KZYX actually lost $250,000, and while he hid KZYX tax returns for 5 years running. But Bat, I need to be honest with you here. You're talking about a respected institution here. You're not. Then what are we talking about?
She's talking about Meg Courtney and John Coate.
Okay, and aren't they synonymous with KZYX? So you're saying they acted on their own. And John Coate hid those tax returns to, I guess, keep his job? I mean, you do what you got to do for 55 grand, I guess. And then what about Meg Courtney? I see. So you think this is embarrassing for her? You know, I've looked at the KZYX website and I saw that the tax return posted there now, but when did that happen? So only after John Sakowicz spoke up. Have you ever heard KZYX mention that loss? Like the 250 grand? What about the hidden tax returns? Did you see the loss reported in the meeting minutes? Huh. Did you see any mention of those tax returns? Did you see any mention of check signing like limit for the general manager? Geez, I wish I could just sign checks for KNYO.
Yeah.
Did anyone on the KZYX board say there was like no such limit? Who was that? I see it was the board secretary. And who was the board secretary? Meg Courtney. So what year was that? I see. It was the fiscal year 2013 and 2014. Okay, right. And is that when the $30,000 in attorney's fees appeared? And was that amount in a budget? You saw no votes on spending for that year or approving any budgets. Nothing. Did you see anyone besides Meg Courtney acting as a secretary for that time period? Okay, did you ever see the word fear in those minutes? How? Wait, you mean that programmers were afraid, like the DJs were afraid? Did you look at the meeting minutes before Meg Courtney joined the board of directors there? Did you see the word fear before Meg Courtney arrived? So only afterwards. Did you ever see those legal expenses voted on? Never. Doesn't KZYX's board of directors have policies and procedures to follow? I mean, I thought every nonprofit does, right? I guess. Okay, and have you seen a copy of them? Do those policies and procedures forbid paying expenses like that without a vote? Okay, so were those policies and procedures voted on? When? 2006? Geez, I've drove 130,000 miles in my GMC since I bought it in 2006.
I put some miles on too there, Joe.
Geez, did Meg Courtney ever mention them? Not once. And where did you find them? Like everything on the internet. You're so sly. Where? On the KZYX website? Did they call for any committees? How many? 7. Who appoints those committees? Okay, the president. Isn't that Meg Courtney? Okay, and have you seen committees there doing anything recently? Okay. Or since Meg Courtney joined the board? Not even once. So Meg Courtney is basically running KZYX without committees. Well, I guess you got to do something with your leftover old city council time.
Might as well.
Yeah, and outside of those policies and procedures, I suppose. Doesn't KZYX have an advisory board? All of them are elected? How many of them aren't elected? 1. Does that board member have a term limit? They're like a board member for life then? Does the board member have any relationship like to KZYX or of the voting directors at KZYX? What kind of relationship are we talking about? Wait, you mean they live together? Who's the voting director? Meg Courtney again. The lady that got angry with you for asking a question and who's a lifetime advisory board member. Or, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Who's the lifetime advisory board member? Bob Bushansky? Is that how you pronounce that? Okay, so out of the board members, 1 is a lifetime, just to clarify. All right, and have you seen any minutes for that advisory board? When was the last meeting held? Okay, so last December. Was there any public outcry? About what? Transparency? Sounds like Fort Bragg City. And those are the last meeting minutes available. Are any minutes available before that time? How many? 2. Okay. Did transparency come up at those meetings? Both of them. Could you find any bylaws for that advisory board? Or elections? Then how did Meg Courtney's boyfriend become a lifetime member of the KZYX advisory board? How does that work? So, you reviewed all the minutes for the advisory board, right? Did you see anything about the tax returns? Or the $30,000 in legal expenses? Does Bob Bushansky have experience on other boards? Wait, so he says he was on the board of directors at the Mendocino Coast Botanical Gardens. Do you see any parallels between, let's say, KZYX then and the Botanical Gardens? Like what? Wait, you're saying that the Botanical Gardens, out of how many nonprofits that we were talking about at the beginning of the show, and we said that 25 of them hide tax returns, and you're saying that KZYX and Botanical Gardens hid tax returns. When did they start doing that? In 2010, and they're still doing it. No? Wait, is Bob Bushansky still on the board there? He's not. Do you think he's advising Meg Courtney privately? Do you have any idea why? Why? Wait, you think that Bob Bushansky's getting bad advice too? And where? From you? Have you worked for Bob before? Doing what? Okay, that's none of my business. Did you know that you were giving him bad advice? Then why did you do it? Okay, you caught him with another woman. A man? Then who'd you catch him with? You caught him with another person of vinyl? Ah, bad. I'm so sorry. That must have been terrible. What'd she look like? Okay, that's a lot. You know, I there's a tone that just came out of your voice that's making the dogs go nuts. Bob Bushansky broke your heart, didn't he? Okay, so you gave him bad advice. And why did you think he'd take that advice? So are you saying that Bob Bushansky makes bad choices? I see. As shown by his indiscretion? Okay, with the other person of vinyl. Did she have a name? What was it? No, come on. Her name was actually Meg? Wow, what a coincidence. Did she have a last name? Wait, her last name was actually Abich? Megabitch? Okay, let's move on. Isn't Bob on the board of directors for the Fort Bragg Senior Center now? On account of a mass resignation? When? 2013. How many directors resigned? 6? Why? Death threats? Wait, like the fear reported at KZYX? Did Bob Bushansky complain about any death threats? Or feeling fearful there? What about Meg Courtney? Has she complained about feeling fearful at KZYX? Not at all? Do you see any connection between the fearfulness at the Fort Bragg Senior Center and the fearfulness at KZYX? Does the Fort Bragg Senior Center have meeting minutes and voting? Does it hide tax returns there? How do you explain that? Okay, so you think it's only a matter of time and they'll probably be hiding them also. How many directors were on the board there before 2013? 9. How many are there today? 4. How many directors are on the board at KZYX? 9. Okay, and how many attended the last board meeting? 6. So, was attendance higher before Meg Courtney joined the board? And has KZYX ever conducted like a listener survey? And how was that survey received? It was flawed? Who said that? Norman Duvall? Who conducted the survey? Bob Busansky, Meg Courtney's boyfriend, right? Okay, and what was the outcome of that survey? A new radio show? Okay, and who's the host of that new radio show? Wait a minute, Bob Busansky again? Is that show educational? Does it offer any community service? Does it cover public safety? Does it foster amateur sports competition? Then what is the new show all about? Politics? Okay, so did the KZYX board of directors vote on that new show? They didn't. So how to get on the air? Wait a minute, do KZYX programmers get paid for shows like that? That's a no, right? Okay, and what kind of politics are discussed? Right-wing politics. That's kind of strange for the Anderson Valley. Is that show informative? Is it entertaining? I guess it depends on if you're right-wing. Whose show did it replace? Wait, Norman Duvall's show got replaced with Bob's show. Okay. Why did that show get replaced? Okay, so this is the way that works, because Norman Duvall spoke his mind and questioned management, just like you did. Do you have any questions for Meg? Just one. And what's that? Okay, you'd like to know the purpose of that policy to hide tax returns for 5 years running, like KZYX did, under Meg Courtney. Is there anything you'd like to say to Meg Courtney? And what's that? No. Come on. You got to throttle that down. No. You can't use that kind of language on the air. Babette. Not even on low-power FM radio. Not at this time of day. Not till after 10 o'clock. Okay, well, we're sorry about that. Thank you, Babette. And we just blazed through that. That was an interesting interview. We're going to deflate Babette and put her back in the box for now. And, yeah, thanks for joining us. Time is now 6:33. This is the Fort Bragg USA Hour on KNYO. I'm your host, Joe Wagner. I'm here with co-host here, Scott Peterson. Christopher Dunn is out for the evening doing band stuff. So that was interesting, a little interview with Babette. Now, I have a few questions, I guess, that maybe you could help me out with here, Scott. How, in that squeaky voice of Babette, that was hard to, is like every time I had an idea, she was just right there. Boom, 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 boom.
Babette is quick. In spite of the squeaking disorder, she is quick.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate. Don't judge a book by its cover, and do not judge Babette by her vinyl.
What I'm curious about is when Meg kind of takes control of KZYX, is this reflective of also how she was in city council, or is, because a lot of people would say, back when there was two females on the city council, before Heidi Kraut and Meg, their seats were transferred to Mike Cimolino and Lindy Peters, I'd be out in the lobby, and, it was like anything the city manager wants was like a yes, all the way across the board. We have a robo-voting city council, and Meg was part of that. All the way up to like the Main Street Merge project.
Go figure.
And the funny thing is we're talking about that $30,000 of missing legal fees, let's say.
Yeah, that was kind of odd. And good job on that, Babette. That was really something.
Yeah.
She's cooling her jets over here.
The interesting thing about legal fees is I was, when Town Hall was remodeled, they had meetings up at the little side room at CV Star. Then they decided the population of the meetings grew, and they went to the Dietrich Center and had meetings there. But one of them at CV Star was when they hired Samantha Zeitler, the new Fort Bragg City attorney, at a rate of, I believe it's $240,000 a year for her to be farmed out from the Bay Area firm that she represents, I guess. This was an interesting thing, and this was when Meg was still on the board. They said, "Welcome to the team," in reference to Samantha before they took the vote. Which means behind the scenes...
they call that a fait accompli.
Yeah, this is and that's where I believe Dave Turner got the idea of Done Deal Dave. We started really calling him that. And he says she knocked his socks off when they reviewed her, and looked into
Well, I'm sure
having
his
her.
socks were off. I'm not sure how they got that way.
Well, and I spoke during public comment, and I said, Dave, we're talking about almost $250,000 a year with any extra expenses. You might as well call it, $250,000 a year for 3 years. That's, $750,000 for a city attorney that's from outside of the area who specializes in some forms of law, but not in like the, let's say, any legal stuff about the mill site.
Right.
There's certain law
Like
that people
zoning and
practice.
redevelopment and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
and I wasn't sure like if the shoe fits as far as having her as a city attorney. So I'm speaking in public comment, and he signed me off. I said, so how did Samantha Zeitler knock your socks off? Could you please explain? Because I think the public needs to know why you're choosing her a little more than that phrase. And his comeback was, well, my socks happen to be from Pippi Longstockings, which is his daughter's store. That was his rebuttal to that question. I'm like, thanks for nothing, Dave. And so we have a city attorney, and this was, of course, when Meg was on that team, that is costing us $240,000 a year. She doesn't know vehicle code because Doug Hammerstrom, who is an attorney, asked her about the coastal trail when they were doing
the segues.
And the segues, and said, please define, and all he was doing was asking for some definitions. And it was funny because Samantha's voice all of a sudden was like, well, I don't really know about the definition, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of turned into, she's a little gray-haired little girl, she's kind of like Linda Ruffing's pal almost. And all of a sudden her voice turned into like Valley Girl pitch. And she's like,
Joe,
I'm not really sure what you're trying to ask me. And Doug kind of shut her down, and I'm wondering if this is the bang for the buck attorney that we were supposed to have.
A very wise person told me once that a good attorney is the second biggest expense you'll ever have.
Wow.
And the first one?
A bad attorney. Okay, well, that's kind of fascinating. You know what? I should take a break because I need to do the date book that I normally do. Unless if you want to keep going, I could do the date book in another hour.
I'm here for you, Joe. And
All
so
right.
is Babette.
I'll tell you what then. I'm going to take just a minor break. I got to wake up a mouse here. Do 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 do. I'm going to get this stuff together here. You're tuned to the Fort Bragg USA show, and we're in here goofing off, doing what we do. All right, elevator music. That's my intermission music so I can get my other stuff set up. I want to thank you guys for joining us. This hour is brought to you by Rhodes Auto Parts, our Napa Auto Parts dealer on the Mendocino coast. And, of course, the opinions expressed here are that of just us casually and not really that of KNYO or any of our underwriters. So we just want to make that clear. But we like to do some fact-checking sometimes. Fact-checking, is that something you guys like? All right. We want to know what the facts are. Stay tuned here for just a moment. I'm going to read you guys some of the current events happening. Got to pull up my date book stuff here. Do 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 do. All right. Date book music. I'd rather be line dancing. Kay Alley's hosting her line dancing at the Casper Inn this evening. They open at 5, so that's been a little while ago. Class starts at 7 o'clock, country line dancing to 8 o'clock, $10 per person for line dancing class. Funny Looking, which is stand-up comedy by Sherry Glazer, and DJ Nutritious Dance Party. Did I tell you guys last week, never buy an Asus Chromebox? I'm going to tell you guys that again. It just went to sleep as soon as I was doing some stuff. Come on, mouse. All right, here we go. DJ Dance Party on Saturday, April 16th. This is at the Casper still. If we go ahead to Friday the 22nd, Shotgun Jesus will be performing funk, psychedelic, jam rock, classic rock, hard rock. They're from Willits, 9 p.m., and the doors open at 8:30. Mojo Green, Saturday the 23rd. Taluna Duo, Italian gypsy music on April 29th. Free Peoples on Saturday, April 30th. Let me shift over here to the Headlands Coffee House. Let's see, tonight, Four Hands Classical Piano Duo with Paula Bueller and Robin Knudsen. Tomorrow, Thursday, is Helene Eve, Eclectic Stylings. Sugar Pea, which is Jamie and Hugh. guitar and vocals on Friday the 15th. Let's see, Los Parates on Saturday the 16th at 7 p.m. Jazz Jam hosted by David Brown on Sunday from 2 to 5. And that's pretty cool there. Shifting over to the Hill House. What's happening at the Hill House anyway? What is the date? We're in April. Soul Survivors Dance Party is happening on the 16th. And I saw a blurb where Jeffrey Walsh sat in and played Whipping Post with the Soul Survivors. Or was it Soul Shakedown? I'll get that straight someday. He might be picking up an interesting gig. Swingin' Boonville Big Band, April 23rd at the Hill House. Those gigs start at 7:30. Highway 1 Dance Party, April 30th. The Mixed Nuts, May 7th. And the Songs of Jackson Brown, May the 13th. At day 2, the Songs of Jackson Brown with a tip of the hat to the Eagles on May 14th, and on May 28th, the Pure Vita Dance Party. And let me see here. I'm going to kick over to the KNYO page, check out the events. And what is happening here? April 30th, 2016, Casper Uke Fest concert for ukuleles. That's at the Casper Community Center. Event start time at 7 p.m., ends at 11. Featuring Ode to Joy by Ensemble Workshop students, the Ukulades, the Ukaholics duo, Patty and Jana and Del Rey. Tickets for this concert finale to Uke Fest are available at the door online at brownpapertickets.com or included in the Uke Fest all-day pass. For more information, call 937-1732. Let's see, a little farther ahead, Bongo Latte at Headlands Coffee House on June 3rd. Jimbo Trout live at the Casper Inn on July 1st, so that's a little farther ahead. You know, it's funny, somebody posted this charter town hall meeting, but it's for August 28th, so mark your calendars. That's a little farther ahead. And that pretty much concludes it for the date book. This hour being brought to you guys by Rhodes Auto Parts at 203 North Main Street in downtown Fort Bragg, your ASE certified parts technician shop for auto parts. Call them at 964-5607. And that's really, really awesome. Thanks for being a long-term component of KNYO. So, we need to get some questions going here. Back to the KNYO Fort Bragg, USA episode. Scott, are you hanging out over there?
I'm hanging out over here.
All right. We've got about 15 minutes to go.
There is one thing. It's a little bit of good news to bring up, I think, for nonprofits and particularly public radio in the region.
Sure.
And that is a look at KMUD. And thank you, Babette, for doing that work. Oh, she's really stressed out. She's sitting over. I think this is her first time on radio.
Well, now that she's quiet, the dog's ears have gone down.
Yeah, that's true. But she found some amazing documentation from KMUD, and they have meetings once a month.
Okay.
Their tax returns dating back to 2002 always seem to be at least every other year. They change. So the person that files the tax returns is different every couple of years or every year. And they're doing really well. You know, where KZYX appears to have lost nearly 80% of its net assets over the last 8 years, KMUD has gained 30%. So it's not just, you know, the crash of 08 or, you know, the price of certain, you know, black market economic commodities around here. It's not like that at all. But what I see in KMUD is a lot of potential for KZYX. If KZYX could actually just visit with the people at KMUD, go to some board meetings and see how the meetings run there, it looks like they're run really well, where we don't have this, you know, organizational meltdown and coping with organizational meltdown. I don't see that at KMUD. I see that at KZYX, and thank you, Babette.
Well, it's interesting. When Paul McCarthy, I told you this off air, that Paul McCarthy once posted that KMUD had a booth in front of Harvest at Mendoza's in downtown Mendocino. I wonder what a KZYX on-air personality or board member tootling through Mendo thinks when they're a whole county away public station is set up at your little Village of Mendocino pushing bumper stickers.
I think it's nature's way of telling you you don't want to rethink.
I wonder what the ratio of pledge drive hours between those two public stations are. We don't do any pledge drives here because we just run on a shoestring and hold on.
The thing that I see with KZYX is that the budgets, the amount of money that's raised between KMUD and KZYX is about the same.
Okay.
But for some reason, expenses are a lot higher at KZYX in spite of having this many employees.
Zero.
Zero.
Well, they employ the station manager, right?
On the tax returns, they have 0 employees. I guess they're all contractors. I don't know. They've got a couple $100,000 in payroll, but they have 0 paid employees.
Because I thought at KZYX, like the station manager made like $60,000 or something like that.
I think that the station manager / executive director was $55,000 to $60,000 a year.
Okay.
And I think that was written off to management. But at KMUD, there are 9 employees.
Paid employees.
Paid employees, and you can see it. They're listed as employees, not identified name by name, but there are 9 paid employees. There are benefits paid, so they're obviously on payroll, but there are 0 paid employees at KZYX, and they're losing all this money. It's really hard to fathom.
Wow. What about Jefferson Public Radio? And now I know Jefferson Public Radio. For those of you who don't know about Jefferson Public Radio, if you like public radio, but you're sick of farm and garden shows and 3-bean salad eating hippies, doing here's the eclectic banjo hour. If you want to skip that and go straight to news talk, this is the key. Now, if you remember KPMO, up on Prairie Way, up Road 409, that is the AM side of what used to be KMFB.
Right.
Which is now KUNK,
right?
Which has a studio in the Boatyard Shopping Center. And basically the old 409 road building on Prairie Way is mothballed. It's just a tower site. Now,
I remember that place.
What they've done with the 1300 AM side that used to do like 49ers games a long time ago, they've leased that to JPR. So if you like Jefferson Public Radio out of Southern Oregon.
On the AM band.
On the AM band.
Wow.
In fact, that's actually my go-to public station if I'm looking for news talk. And what really switched me, and I enjoy all the public stations, but my preference was there was some budget crisis stuff at KZYX. And I was a huge Garrison Keillor Prairie Home Companion. That was my gardening time. It was
one of my
listen to the show.
Too.
Yeah. And they dropped Prairie Home Companion for a while. And what I found when I was surfing around looking for something else to listen to, and I was bored, I went on the AM dial, and I realized JPR plays Prairie Home Companion on Saturday and Sunday with a 1-hour step between the 2 days. They also play Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Harry Scher, the guy that does all the Simpson voices and stuff from Spinal Tap, has The Show. That's also on JPR.
In the daytime instead of at 1 o'clock at night, which is his slot at KZYX now.
Harry Scher? The show is on KZYX?
It's at midnight.
Oh, well, who's going to stay up for that?
Crazy people like me.
Okay. I used to listen to the Tree House, and on Thursday nights they usually rotated every other week, some crazy shows on KZYX, and I missed those. In fact, there was some young guys that did kind of a hard rockin' show for 2 hours, and it wasn't the Tree House, it was the offside of that, same time slot. But those guys sounded like they were having a lot of fun down there. Like there was a party at the studio. They rocked. I kind of got sick of what they were doing after a while, but it was cool that, hey, somebody's actually using public radio for a rocking variety show.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when Chris is here, when we program stuff, we like to throw in some funny bits, play some rocking stuff. Sometimes you get Rick rolled without knowing it, and all of a sudden Rick Ashley's playing.
I heard about getting Rick rolled.
Yeah, so I like it, that there's a real diverse bunch of programmers. Now, I haven't heard it lately because I'm really involved with KNYO. All volunteer. We have no employees. Anyway, back to the JPR angle. I imagine you probably didn't tap into looking into...
I haven't seen JPR.
I mean, they're based out of Southern Oregon, and they have, 6 or 7 different translators. They have... including
have to check it out.
The old KPMO AM side down here, which sometimes crashes. Sometimes they have to send old Andy up the road, has to go down there and, kick the bucket down there to make the thing go back on the air. I think the tower degradation might be an issue because with AM, there's actually a wire that goes all the way up the length of the tower, not just an antenna mounted up there like in FM. It's a longer wave. And in the wind, if that wire is like wet or saturated and bonks against the actual metal frame, I'm not sure what it is. Somehow it gets like shorted, knocks them off the air, and they have to reset something.
You know, centuries from now, people are going to talk about this and say, can you believe that they were actually broadcasting that primitive radio from this primitive infrastructure? Oh, my God.
I know.
Primitive.
They're going to look at like KDAC has a 405-foot tower, and when you add the big tall light on the top and the little concrete base, is basically about 420 feet on the FCC license. I just know that because my grandfather used to be a station owner there. Can you imagine in the future, people are going to look at that over 400-foot tower, which is a 5/8 wave for 120 kilocycles, by the way, and wonder, why did they do that? Well, our technology, we didn't have microwaves in the waves we're using for common phones and stuff like that.
That was the first radio signal I ever heard was KDAC.
Wow. So were you born here?
Long time ago. My place of residence is on my birth certificate as Mendocino, but I was delivered in San Francisco, so call me a pizza.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I was born here but raised in the Midwest in Wyoming, and then came back as a teenager just in time to get screwed up and do dumb things.
Yeah, right. Do dumb things somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So we've covered some just fun facts and information about some stations.
Yeah, and again, I think the ray of hope is that it's not the economy that's taxing these public radio stations that I can see, and it's not so much, people with bad intentions. Maybe it's just people who don't know any better. Because I think that if the people here could go and visit the people at KMUD, there are a lot of good ideas that are really working there.
Interesting. And with that, I also want to add that if you think there's something going on, and there's like pledge drive, and you're like, all right, I want to pledge $25 a month or something like that, and you think, well, am I going to give to a station that lost $250,000 in midair on their paperwork? How does that happen? Or do you want to invest in something? Here's an interesting analogy. One time I was at the Lions Club meeting, and they had one of the superintendents or some guy from the schools, and he was talking about upgrading a furnace, I believe at Dana Gray. And he said, this furnace is going to be so many tens of thousands of dollars. And I had this thought, that like it's kind of the Model T theory. Like if you have a Model T to restore, it's so primitive, and it's so old, but a machine shop could build you a component for a Model T, possibly.
Right.
Whereas if you have a 70s Ford Pinto and you need a part made, they might not make that and go search a junkyard. And so my thought was, okay, you guys have these really old boilers. If you retrofit them but just keep the main boilers, you could manufacture parts for those. But if you put in an updated furnace, whole boiling system is updated and a piece crashes, then you have these super expensive modules or components. So now to bring this back to radio, $25 could go really far on KNYO.
I think so.
Whereas one of the larger public entities, it's like, what's that? We lose that every 10 seconds, according to our papers.
And I think anybody who pledges or donates or underwrites thinks about the people who are involved. And for me, the thing about public radio and public charities, it says right there on the tax returns that they're open for public inspection.
Sure.
And if you ever try to hide something that's open for public inspection, it doesn't help the chances of your organization to further its mission and to raise money to further its mission.
Interesting. Well, it's been an interesting hour here on KNYO. And by the way, with that analogy that, sometimes helping the small guy actually is more effective than shoveling money at the big guy, I just want to let you guys know that the office line for KNYO is 964-6968. If you need to mail something like a donation, hint, hint, P.O. Box 1651, Fort Bragg, California. And I believe if you were to cut a check, that you make it out to the NOIO Radio Project. I believe that can get there. And also, if you're interested in underwriting, Bob at poetworld.net is our station manager's email. and that's two B's. Actually, it's three B's. It's BOBB. BOBB with the @ sign, then all lowercase, Poet World, POETWORLD.net. And you can email Bob. Also, I would invite you guys to check out the knyo.org website. It has our schedules. It has a link to listen live. Sometimes we have a webcam of downtown from the Fallout Shelter studio that you can see cars and people walking around and walking by because it's kind of an outside webcam. There's a tab for DJs. You can profile those. There's some media links. There's an event link. So if you want to post an event that like I might read on the date book or other DJs that are broadcasting can refer to, you're welcome to use us as an event kind of a pegboard here. There's an about and a contact tab. And I would encourage you guys to check that out and give us a listen. There's some interesting shows in the schedule. Some aren't for everybody, like public radio. You know, like I was mentioning to Scott, I like the Treehouse and some of those more animated, crazy shows back in my KZYX listening days. And I'm not so much into farm and garden shows because I've heard enough shows about straw bale house building and stuff like that. Anything else you want to add? The KNYO time is 6:57, and we're kind of just coasting now.
I think the most important thing for any member of the public to do is to give feedback to your public radio station and support any way that you can. And sometimes it's not money. Sometimes it's just being plain truthful.
I don't have any money. I give them time.
I don't have much truth, but boy, bad bet, you can't shut her up, can you?
I know. The dogs were just like, I could hear them through the house. Rah, 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 rah.
Who let the dogs out?
Yeah, it's kind of cool when you can have a dog-friendly studio. Well, that pretty much concludes this hour of Fort Bragg, USA. You want to do that little outro there?
Yeah, come on. Let's do this again.
Okay.
I like the Avengers.
You want the Avengers? You got it queued up?
It's queued up.
Okay, hit the Avengers there.
It was.
I got it over here, too. You want me to do it?
Wait. I had my volume down. Hold on.
I can do it if you want.
No. I want it. Let me.
We're working out a gear faux pas. Is that what that's called?
Yeah.
You know, nothing ever fails in public radio. But you know what? That's kind of interesting because sometimes our automation is kind of jumpy on the KNYO thing. But the three presets in my GMC when I'm driving up and down the coast are KNYO, KZYX, and then the JPR AM. So I toggle between the three. And the other day, I'm going down the road, and I hear dead air on KZYX. And I thought, wait a minute, those guys have a way bigger budget for studio. I thought their automation would cover that.
Dead air.
Yeah, well, that's all right. It happens to everybody. Well, unless your automation is really high-end, I guess.
Well, with all that money,
yeah,
it should be something.
Yeah, I could do a lot with the loss of $250,000.
Yeah, or $30,000 in legal fees that went nowhere.
We could buy a news van for KNYO.
Let's take a vacation. Let's take the girls on a little Hawaiian getaway, huh? What do you say?
All right, the preceding portion has been brought to you by Rhodes Auto Parts. KNYO time is now about 7 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for the next two crazy rockin' hours of the C&J's Warehouse Show.